Every time I sit down to film, I realise that I really need to trim my fringe. Look at this. It's not good. Come on, behave. Behave. So I'm back with another video in my Dates with Kate Storytime series. Sorry these have been a bit like meh recently. I haven't done one of these in a while, but I'm back with a new dating storytime for you guys. I would like to do this series a lot more this year, so stay tuned. In this series I talk about some dates that I've been on and hopefully you guys can relate. I've been doing the whole app thing and I have some great stories that I thought it might be quite nice to share with you. So today's date brings up a topic which I think most of you might be able to relate to, or it might be just me that has had this happen to, but I'm going to tell you about, I think, probably the best Tinder date I've ever been on. So what should we call this guy? Let's call this guy Scott. Scott is a made-up name to protect this guy's identity. So we matched on Tinder and the conversation was immediately very flirty. I have a picture on my Tinder profile which is me surrounded by sheep, where I have a look of complete like fear on my face. It's not a flattering photo of me at all, but I just like having it on my profile because it's a good conversation starter. And he said something along the lines of, oh, you look like Snow White or something, and I was like, oh, that's right, I'm a real Disney princess, me. And it was like immediately very flirty, and 6 messages into the conversation he asked me for drinks. Pretty quick, that's never really happened before. And I should also add, he was drop dead gorgeous, like one of the best looking men I've ever seen on Tinder, so much so that I thought either the pictures were really old or that I was definitely being catfished. Just a gorgeous man, cute little button nose, nice hair, like a nice bit of tan, green eyes, just gorgeous. I even showed my friends some of his pictures before I went on the date, and he was so good looking, they were like, oh, he looks a bit up himself, like a bit like, bleh. And I was like, yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, after 6 messages, he was like, do you want to go for a drink tomorrow? I can do that. I think I had circus class, so I was like, oh no, but here's my number, let's arrange something. And then we started texting. The conversation over WhatsApp was again just great. I think my WhatsApp profile picture, I'll put it here, is really old picture of me where my face is all blurred out but I'm holding a camera. I haven't changed my WhatsApp picture since I got WhatsApps. And he was like, oh, great camera. And then he sent me a picture of one of his cameras, and then I sent him a picture back of my camera like ladder where I've got I collect vintage cameras, so I had loads of them, and I sent him a picture and he replied with a ring emoji, question mark, and then he was like, is this a bit too soon? And I was like, oh my god, he's great. Like he was very flirty at the beginning. So yeah, we met up. He chose a bar called Archer Street. I'd never been there before, but I'd heard that it was a great date location, great date venue, because it's like quite a fancy cocktail bar in Soho, and the waiters and waitresses like stand on the tables and sing with microphones every now and then, and that was great because it like really helped to break the ice. I can imagine if you haven't got much to talk about on a date, then that would definitely give you something. You could talk about like karaoke songs and I don't know. Great, it was a great date location. I also just really like the fact he told me where to be and what time. Like, I like someone who's quite decisive, and he's just like, yeah, this place is great, let's go there. And I'm like, takes the pressure off me because I'm so indecisive. I can never choose a venue because I want everyone to be happy. So he chose that. It was great. I actually was running quite late to the date, and also I should say I didn't wash my hair the night before, which I normally do for a special occasion, and I definitely regretted that on the day because my hair was full of dry shampoo and I don't think I looked my best. On the way to the date, I was a bit like, oh, I should have made a bit more of an effort. So I was running a little bit late. I literally got in a taxi, but it was rush hour, standstill traffic in Soho. I ended up getting out of the taxi early, running to the venue, and I was a bit of a mess. I also came straight from Gleam, my management's office, so I had like a big ugly rucksack with my laptop in it. I had a big coat on, and I just looked a bit of a hot mess. But he'd asked me what I wanted to drink, and when I got to the bar, he was sitting at the bar and he had a glass of rosé for me, which was just perfect. First impressions of him, I was just blown away. He literally looked like James Bond sitting at the bar. He was wearing like a black polo neck with a blazer, with a handkerchief like properly folded in a little triangle in the pocket. And he was drinking a martini with an olive in it, and he had this nice facial hair, and I was just like, you are real life James Bond. Like, I was literally like blown off my feet at how this guy looked, and his like instant charisma, and yeah, the fact he was drinking a martini with an olive in, I was just like, love. It's love at first sight. I was told by the door staff that I had to go and take my coat and my bag up to the cloakroom, and so I was like, I went and said hello to him, and then I was like, I've got to go and put my bag and stuff upstairs. And he was like, oh no, don't worry, you don't have to do that, it's fine. So I sat down and started drinking, and then the doorman came back over and had a go at me. He was like, no, you need to go and put those upstairs. I think it must have been quite a fancy place for me to have to do that. So yeah, that was the first embarrassing thing, because I got told off on the date by door staff. So that made me even more flustered as well, because then I had to pick all my stuff up, take it upstairs, put it in the cloakroom, come back down. But after that, it was great. We spoke really naturally, like we was talking like we'd known each other for a really long time. I was mentioning things that I wanted to do on my bucket list before I turned 30, and and it was quite funny because he was like, oh, so what's on it then? And I was like, well, I'd like to learn the star constellations, and I'd like to do a car boot sale. And he was like, oh my god, are you serious? Like, mine is to talk to a barman or something. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, no, I'm joking, but like, be a bit more. I think he thought I was a bit endearing. So then we moved away from the bar and onto a proper table, and it was literally like there was a waiter singing on the table next to us, like standing on the table next to us, but it felt like we were in a proper bubble, like everyone just wasn't there, and it was just us two talking, and it was honestly one of the best dates I'd ever been on. We spoke about so much stuff. We briefly mentioned past relationships, and he said that he had cheated on his first ever girlfriend at uni. He also said that I was his first Tinder date in 6 months, which I didn't quite believe at the time. I was a bit like, yeah, right, like, you probably get matched with everyone. I obviously didn't say this, but I was like a bit like, yeah, right, you're just saying that to like flatter me, I don't know. And then we also spoke about my phobia. My phobia is emetophobia. It's the fear of vomit. Sorry, any emetophobes out there, I'll put a trigger warning in the description box. And I was telling him, I don't know how we got onto that conversation, but I was telling him about that, and he said that he had the same phobia, and I honestly never in my life met someone who has the same phobia as me. His was slightly different. Mine is more about other people being sick, like I am worried about that. His was the fear of himself being sick. And I was like, at this point, I think I went to the toilet after this, and I text my friends, I'm in love. I literally text them, I'm in love with this man. He is a dream. For me, dating someone who has a phobia of being sick and say that they are never sick would just be like my perfect man, because then I would never have to worry about him being sick, if that makes sense. So yeah, I was just like, wow. We also spoke about some like bad dates that we'd both been on, like bad Tinder dates. He said that a while ago he went on a date with a girl who kind of just sat there and made him pay for everything, and he didn't like it, and he felt like she was just grabbing money off of him. We also spoke a little bit about our flaws, I think, like what we think our biggest flaws are, which was really interesting on a first date to hear kind of those things. We just spoke about things that I'd never really spoken to a guy on a first date before, which was nice. So then we left. I obviously got all of my rounds, and he had his card behind the bar, and I went to the toilet before we left. Then we left the bar, we walked back to Piccadilly Station. We were holding hands, might I add, as well. We held hands back to Piccadilly Circus, which I was just like, oh my god. And then we said goodbye. I was very drunk. I am a bit of a lightweight, and I think we had quite a few drinks, so I was a bit tipsy, but like fine, not embarrassing, just myself, like chirpier. I remember looking at him and being like, are we gonna kiss? Are we gonna kiss? We didn't kiss. But I feel like I might have lunged a little bit. I might have just made the eye contact and been like, but then it didn't happen. But anyway, he texted me straight after the date saying something like, had a really great night, still very flirty. I text him back, and then the next day he texts me saying, oh, I just realised that I left my card behind the bar. And I just assumed in my head that when I went to the toilet he'd like paid his tab and got it, but so he must have been quite tipsy as well to forgotten his card. So I was like, oh no, I hope it's going to be alright, you going back to pick it up, just let you know I got all of my rounds, so don't worry about that. Because also I was a bit cautious of the fact that he was talking about a bad date where the girl was a money grabber, and I didn't want him to think that I just left him to get the whole bar tab. Like, it wasn't like that. And then he didn't text me back, and that was about 5 months ago, and he still never texted me back. I got ghosted. This was kind of like the first date I'd had where I'd really liked someone on the date. It was the first time I'd had butterflies, and it was the first time I'd actually been excited about the prospect of seeing someone again. And I remember the day after the date, I was filming a Halloween makeup tutorial, and my friend came round. I was telling her all about the date, and then when he didn't text back, I was just a bit like, oh man. And that, it was shit. Why do people do that? Like, I can't, in my head, I'm trying to work out what happened, because it seemed so great. Either he was like a master serial dater and just had so many girls on the go, and just, I don't know, it was just so baffling. That's the thing with ghosting. I'm gonna admit, I think I have ghosted someone before, but only because I've been either terrible at texting back, or I just didn't want to say that I didn't really like them. So probably it might have even been that, but I just, the text from him straight away, straight after the date, made me think that he was interested. So yeah, I got ghosted. I got ghosted hard by like the only person I've ever met online that I really liked. So that was great. Like, he definitely hasn't blocked me on WhatsApp, because I can still see his profile on it. And he's still on Tinder as well, so yeah, I'd just really like to know. I'd really be curious to know if this has ever happened to any of you. If you've met someone online, it has gone great, and then they just have ghosted you and never got back to you. I guess it says more about them than it does you as a person, so try not to take it too personally, but completely get. I was like really upset about this for a while, and also I got back from the date being like, I just have a feeling nothing's gonna happen, because it's just my luck that something like that, I'd meet someone and that it just wouldn't work. You guys, you're not the only ones that's happened to. If you would like more Dates with Kate Storytime videos, do let me know. I will definitely film more. I've been on quite a lot of dates recently, so I definitely have some more stories to tell. So yeah, let me know. Sorry if this wasn't as interesting as others perhaps, but I'd love it if you could subscribe and leave a comment down below, and I will see you next week. Mwah.